live and direct from the Golden State. It's intelligent talk media, the Denice Gary Show. Now, here's Denice Gary.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denice Gary Show. It is just an honor and a thrill to have Philip Haney on the phone with us today. He is in Jerusalem, Israel. He is one of the founding members of the Department of Homeland Security, a frontline intelligence expert. He worked behind the scenes when he was in Washington, D.C. as an intelligence officer looking for patterns and links to terror organizations that were working to bring down the United States both inside the country and outside our borders. And in fact, the man that we're about to interview is the same person who uncovered the links between the Muslim Brotherhood and the Boston Marathon bombers, and the links between the San Bernardino, California terrorists and the Tablighi Jamaat movement, whose husband and wife team shot to death 14 Americans, including 21 more that were injured, working for the Public Health Department right here in San Bernardino, California. And now you are in Jerusalem, Philip Haney. Welcome to the Denice Gary Show.
Hey, thank you very much. Glad to be here
Well,
with you.
Thank you. Now, I thought we would begin. I can't wait to hear all the things that you would love to share with the audience today. But first up, I want to talk about the attacks. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, yesterday was Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, and this is an important celebration in Israel. It is the 52nd anniversary of the Jewish people regaining control of the old city of Jerusalem from Jordanian occupation from 1948 to 1967. There was a lot of terror attacks yesterday, Philip. I know there on the Temple Mount, starting in the morning, the Muslim Arabs or the Palestinians were throwing rocks, stones, chairs at the Jewish civilians that were coming up to pray there on the Temple Mount. I imagine some Christians were attacked as well. And then we had the attack at the Damascus Gate. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you can check these things out for yourself. Fatah, the Revolutionary Council for the Palestinians, that's part of the main political wing of the Palestinian Authority and the Palestine Liberation Organization. They had all this up on their Facebook page. So you can check it out. So, Philip, were you touched at all? Were you in view of, did you actually witness any of these attacks on the civilian population yesterday?
I didn't witness any of the attacks, but I went and participated with probably, who can estimate it, many hundreds of thousands of people on Yom Yerushalayim Day, the celebration of the return of Jerusalem after the 1967 Six-Day War.
Right.
Which, by the way, is the same time frame we're in right now. And I've been to Israel, I think, 14 times since 1988, and probably Jerusalem 50 at least. And I've never seen such an overflow of people in the city in the entire time that I've ever been here. I mean, you're not just talking about the entire old city of Jerusalem, starting with the plaza where the Western Wall is so often shown in pictures. You start out there and it overflowed clear outside the city, clear up into West Jerusalem, out onto, Zion Square, and the main streets, hundreds of thousands of people. It was really quite fun to be able to participate in this. Most of the people.
I know I'm jealous. I wish I wish I could have been there. I just think what a momentous occasion, but there'll be another opportunity next year. Maybe I can make it next year. But that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible that you've been to Jerusalem 50 times. What brought you, sir, to Jerusalem that many times, may I ask?
It's a combination of my first profession that brought me here was, remember, I think I mentioned to you I was an entomologist. That was my first career, and it happens that I worked in citrus, the crop of citrus all over the world, including here in Israel. And the very first time I came here was in 1988 for the International Citrus Congress.
Ah.
But I worked in the Middle East, and I'd always transit through Israel every chance I got. And I've come here also for the International Conference on Terrorism that's held every year in commemoration of 9/11, since 9/11, in Herzliya, Israel. So, plus I've come on tours. Like this time, I was on a tour of the borders of Israel. We went and looked at border protection on the border of Egypt, the border of Lebanon, the border of Syria, and the border of Jordan. And with my background in counterterrorism and such, and being Customs Border Protection Officer, this was a great opportunity for me to come and participate. We, for example, met with the designer of the protection fence, that 430 miles protective fence between different parts of Israel and different parts like the Gaza and or the West Bank, Samaria, the designer of it. And that's what I did on this trip was, so I've come for tourism, I've come for my first career in science, and I've come for my second career in counterterrorism and national security.
Sounds like a very momentous time in your life, certainly personally as well as professionally. And I celebrate that with you. That's phenomenal. Let's talk about having met the designer of the fence. As you and I both know, there's been tremendous criticism of the state of Israel and certainly of this president for wanting to have a border fence or border wall, however way you want it, whatever semantics you want to use. And so when you met that designer, I wonder what kind of, did he mention at all any kind of problems that he faced in terms of maybe even death threats from the Muslim Arab population or Palestinians there in regards to having designed those border fences? That's question number one. And number two, could you speak to the number of lives that many of us believe have been saved as a result? And I'm talking about civilian lives inside Israel that have been saved as a result of the fence. If you could address those two issues.
Sure. One of the things they found out in that approximately 430-mile length of protective fencing is that only 5% of it is the concrete slab, 9-meter, 27-foot-high fence that we so often see portrayed in the media.
Mm-hmm.
Just
yes.
a straight-up blank wall.
Right.
That's only 5% of it. The rest of it is a sophisticated design. They call it a wire fence. It looks like any kind of traditional fence with posts every 6 or 7 feet and wire. But what makes a difference is they call it an approach concept, a security concept, not just a fence. But the fence is so sophisticated that it can sense vibration.
Oh.
Not just of a person, but of a cow, or a donkey, or a mouse, for that matter.
So the
And on the
Wow. So the Israelis have been, excuse me, I'm sorry for interrupting you. So the Israelis have built this wire fence that is so sensitive that it can pick up movement from a mouse, let alone a human being, a terrorist that might be trying to cut through the fence. So is it impossible then for somebody, for example, a militant, a terrorist that wants to come in and slice a few throats there in Israel on a particular said day, so they couldn't cut through that fence, because what does that do? Immediately send a signal to somebody in an IDF location? Okay.
That's right. They have
Incredible.
personnel stationed all along the border, which is another part of, again, what they call, quote unquote, the concept of national security. There are IDF and Israeli police. Israeli police do exactly what I did in Customs and Border Protection. They're synonymous jobs. We're called Customs and Border Protection, very close to Border Patrol. But in Israel, they're called Israeli police.
Okay.
And or, depending on the area, of course, they IDF. And they use the verb run. When they get an alert on the fence, they run to it. But what they also have is a 5-meter wide strip that they patrol every day of sand or earth, that when somebody were to jump over the fence and manage to escape it all, they see the footprints. And they go back over that entire 430-mile length fencing arrangement every single day to make sure there's no footprints that people have got over.
Is it sand? Is it sand? I mean, what? How can they discern that footprint very well? Did they lay down sand, or what do they have down there in terms of soil?
It's kind of a light brown colored earth. Maybe it's sand.
Okay.
Have you been in Israel? You know,
yes.
There is kind of the same color. It's kind of a desert sand, yellow brown kind of color.
Sure.
And I don't know what the aggregate is, what the particular material that they use exactly is, but it's distinctive. You can see it. If you're looking down on a section of the fence, you can see this strip, this 5-meter, 15-foot wide strip that runs every single place in the whole country where the fence is. And they can tell if somebody's jumped it, and because of the footprints. And to answer your question about its effectiveness, I think if I remember the numbers right, he was talking about one particular section around Bethlehem, Beit Shalom, and Beit Sahor, which was particularly close to a town called Gilo, which is the southernmost part of the borders of Jerusalem. I'm going to say that between 48 and 67, they had more than 1,000 jihad attacks come over, because there was no fence. And in the early days of the country, people came and went for the most part with no trouble. But after the 80s, when the Intifada series began, they had more than 1,000 attacks now since they built the fence. I'll say in the mid-80s, what is that, about 30 years?
Yes.
They had a total of 15.
Wow. So
yeah.
this is, I went to several border checkpoints when I was there in Israel last, and I would love to go to Israel every year myself. It's just resources that constrain me, the available resources. But the last time I was there was in 2015, sadly. But I specifically asked to go to these checkpoints because, it's reported by the left-wing media here and everywhere how terrible they are. And yet, for every checkpoint that I visited that's supposed to ensure that, people are coming in and there are no weapons, there are no guns or knives or anything that could be used to harm a civilian, I noticed they seem to be extremely peaceful and orderly. There was never a problem. and some were actually totally quiet. You know, when you look at this, wired fence, I'm not sure what to call it. What do I call it, Philip?
They call it a fence. They call it a wire fence.
Okay, that's what they call it. Okay, so when you look at this wire fence and you think about 1,000 jihadists, in other words, ladies and gentlemen, people determined to kill for Allah because they believe in their heart and soul it's the right thing to do, because that's what they're taught from birth, is to do that. So you have these individuals that are sold out to Allah, to the teaching of the Quran and the Hadith, and they're doing what they believe they should do. And so you mentioned, Philip, that from 48 to 67, before the fence began, there were at least 1,000 jihadists that have been documented, that are on the record for having coming over. But since
let's push that number forward into the time of the Intifada, because it went up dramatically
Yes.
during that period in the 80s. So let's say from the 40s through the 80s approximately, they had more than 1,000. And this is just in the Gilo area that we're talking about, where the southern portion of Jerusalem itself touches the West Bank. I'm not even talking about the whole country. I'm talking about one particular hotspot,
yeah,
which was what prompted them to build this design they called the concept in the first place. There were 2 or 3 particular areas where they were having continuous sniping. They were actually shooting at cars going on the main highway.
that's right.
From houses in
That's
their
right.
villages that were like 25 meters away from the road. And so in a place like that, they put up a solid concrete wall to keep snipers from shooting cars. So every area that we're referring to has specific requirements. And by the way, you did ask another question that's really important, and it's really fascinating, the answer to it, about criticism, about the people who designed the wall.
Yes,
And in every one of these border checkpoints, Lebanon, Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, there are people that are commanders, people that are in charge of this, who basically, of course, they grew up here, but they grew up here making friends. They grew up with Arabs, and they speak fluent Arabic, and they know each other, meaning, like the Democrats and the Republicans in one respect, they may not see eye to eye on anything, but they actually know each other. And the designer of the fence was a fellow that was specifically assigned because he knew the leaders of the tribes in different neighborhoods where he was going to be expected to put this fence on through. And the motto was, not one house will be destroyed. And so they would go to all these elaborate arrangements to make sure that literally not one house would be destroyed. And in order to do that, they had to set up special gates. Like in East Jerusalem, there's about 25 families that chose to remain inside the border of Israel, but still are affiliated with the Palestinian community. And so the Israelis made a special gate just for them. Every day they go through into the Palestinian community so that their kids can go to school. And then every evening they come back through and they go through a checkpoint. And that's the only restriction. They have to pass through the checkpoint when they come back. Not when they go out, just when they come back.
And
And in Bethlehem,
I just want the audience to appreciate the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, after 9/11, we have several checkpoints at our airports, right? Because we were terrorized. The nation was terrorized. And there continue to be terrorist attacks against Americans. And believe me, having had top secret clearances, there are potential attacks on Americans that go on all over this country that you and I will never even know about, because we don't have a need to know, And the government is, the FBI, the counterterrorism people within the police department or sheriff's department, they work together. They work with other counterterrorism groups to keep us safe. So there are things that are happening every day in the United States. And you have to think about why Israel put those checkpoints in. Israel's berated around the world and here in the U.S. by Democrats like Representative Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. But those checkpoints, just like the checkpoints that we finally had to put in place at our airports, is absolutely essential to protecting the lives of innocent people. Go ahead, Philip. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's just fascinating, the close interwoven relationship between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And the fact that they put these fences up, not to keep anybody in or out, per se, but to keep jihadist terrorists from coming over and killing people.
Right.
That's the only reason there's a fence. There wasn't even a fence anywhere in Israel. Initially, after 48, clear through 67, when they recaptured, the old city,
right,
which is where we started today, the Jerusalem Day celebration. But when the Intifadas of Yasser Arafat, that's when they had to start taking measures to protect themselves. I mean, that's their duty. That's the duty of our elected officials as well, to protect our citizens from harm. I mean, it's in the very first article of the Constitution, prevent outbreaks of violence and insurrections. It's so fundamental. It's absurd to me that we find ways to continue arguing about something that's so obvious. That's their primary job. That's why they are elected to go to Congress. Not really so much to argue about so many of the things that they do argue about, but to make sure they're doing their primary responsibility. It's not a manufactured crisis. And you compare the argument in America to the obvious need for protective measures here, and you try to apply the concept of a manufactured crisis, it seems completely ridiculous. I mean, it seems beyond absurd. Nobody on either side would ever say that the wall was there because it's a manufactured crisis.
No, of course.
That's not even a point of argument. They're fighting to the death, but they would never say that it's a manufactured crisis. Neither side feels that way about it. And so the one thing that the Israelis say, and they notice, and it's obvious, and they're right, is that all the different branches of law enforcement that are operating in America, Customs and Border Protection, my agency, Border Patrol, ICE, local police, state police, don't cooperate with each other anywhere near the way that they should.
Sure.
And which they don't. And until we resolve that problem, we're going to have, we're going to continue to have holes in the system. And I don't just mean a border that's easily crossed. I'm talking about a more abstract way of thinking about it. That's what they call their concept. We don't have the concept where everybody that's involved in some form or fashion in national security works together. In a sense, you can call it the same radio frequency. Our law enforcement branches do not operate on the same radio frequency.
And
they do here in Israel.
I see.
They work together.
And Philip, you were about to, I think, share something about the designer of this very sophisticated concept or wire fence, knowing the Palestinians. I wanted to underscore what you were talking about in terms of the fact that this designer of this fence knew he knew the Muslim Arabs or the Palestinians. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, until Yasser Arafat, to the Muslim Arabs, the term Palestinian was a dirty word. I mean, that term was associated with the British Mandate period of time between the end of World War I and 1948. Muslim Arabs didn't want to be part of some British-controlled territory. They just came up to do jobs and work because the British and the Jews provided job opportunities. But it wasn't until Israel really was successful and was able to regain more territory, part of what has been part of the Jewish people for 3,000 years at least, i.e. Jerusalem, taking all of Jerusalem back, including the Western Wall, which under the Muslim leadership, under Jordanian leadership, which is, by the way, a Palestinian majority state. I mean, Jordan was part of the Palestine Mandate, so the Muslim Arabs, if you want to call them Palestinians, Jordan is a majority Palestinian state, and they wouldn't allow Jews to even set foot next to the Western Wall. In fact, all the cemeteries and areas there that were fully Jewish were absolutely desecrated and destroyed. So, this is a big deal to have that wall, that what we call Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, for the Jewish people to have a fence to protect those Jews that can actually go back to a temple that was built and by a king of Israel and literally pray at that wall that goes back from time immemorial. And I think it's incredible, Philip, that there you were, and of course I imagine you went to the Western Wall, is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It was just, I'm losing track of days. It was last night.
Great.
We were down there, and that's the irony of it, is that they need a fence to protect the wall.
They need a fence to protect those souls
Yeah,
that want
to
that want to go back to pray.
They wouldn't be able to have 100,000 people.
Right.
By the way, there was not one single security incident. You're talking multiple hundreds of thousands of people squished together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean in a pleasant way.
Yes.
But we were all squished together, singing. People were jumping up and down.
Dancing.
Singing songs, and just
Dancing.
everybody looked. It was a celebration.
Yes.
And there wasn't any sense of, everything was so peaceful. Everything was, it was wonderful to be there. And then when it was finished, everybody had to file out. They're going through the gates of the city, the same ones that have been there since 3,000 years.
Right. That's what
We're all filing up out of going this way, and the local city police had barricades where you couldn't go here and you couldn't go there, so they funneled this.
Yeah, to keep people safe. Right.
But there was no pushing or shoving. There was no hurriedness. Everybody was considerate. Girls were hanging on to the hands of other girls, onto the hands of other girls like a chain. People had their hand on my shoulder, and I had my hand on somebody else. Since I'd been there so often, I knew the little shortcuts and had a way to get around, so they were all following me. Follow me! And in we went, into this teeming mass of people. And there wasn't even the slightest hint of, at one point a little boy got separated and he was crying, and we took him to the Malden David, the equivalent of the Red Cross, and they comforted him, and they made sure that they found where his mom and dad was, and that was just a kaleidoscope of scenes that it was wonderful to park. But 1967, that was impossible.
Right. Philip, can we stop?
The 52nd anniversary.
Right. Can we stop you there? I wanted to share out some of the things that were coming across the Palestinian media and have you respond to it. Can you hold on for a commercial break?
Dear,
No.
I'm here with the group, and
Okay.
they're about to start supper, and this is our last night.
Oh, okay. All right, sir.
So I think that if we can pick up, if I can come back, we can pick up where we're left off, because there's always going to be developing news here in this story.
Absolutely, sir. You have a wonderful dinner there in Jerusalem. May I ask, just because I've been there a few times myself. Where did you decide to dine? Where did your group decide to dine tonight in Jerusalem?
We're in the Ramada.
Oh, okay.
Right by the Knesset.
Oh, all right. Next to the Knesset. Very good. Well, you have
Yeah,
a one.
close.
You have a wonderful dinner, sir, and thank you for taking time away from your work there in Israel to come on the Denise Gary Show. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.
I really appreciate it, Denise. It's really great to have a chance to talk to you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, good night. Ladies and gentlemen, bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to take a commercial break. Thank you so much for listening to the Denise Gary Show. We'll be right back after this short break.
I want to tell you about a place I love to go, Frugatti's Italian Restaurant. Very few locations here provide seating outside in front of a fabulous water fountain with an atmosphere that is reminiscent to me of eating outdoors in Venice. This is real Italian food by real Italians. And what makes it even more so is owner Ralph Frugoletti, who nearly a quarter century ago brought a wood fire oven from Milan, Italy to make, like his mother, fresh homemade bread and pizzas. Moreover, Frugatti's Restaurant offers you not only the very best in Southern Italian cooking, even importing the finest ingredients for authentic Italian food, including a fitness menu. After all, Ralph has represented the United States and Italy, competing in the Master Championship Games. He knows all the right food for good fitness, so check out the menu. After today's broadcast, run over to Frugatti's Italian Restaurant and Catering at 600 Coffee Road here in Bakersfield. And after a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday service, stop into Frugatti's for a great lunch. I'll see you there, and tell Mr. Ralph Frugoletti that Denise sent you. Salute. Buon appetito.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so thrilled I've got the owner of Scope 365 Fitness here with me today, Craig Jansen, Navy veteran. Craig, tell the audience out there why everybody in town needs to come over here and join.
Well, Sculpt 365 is a 24-hour club, so we never close, unlike a lot of other clubs here in town. Additionally, our club is always super clean, and one of the things that you're going to find here is a different environment where we strive to give you a VIP experience here. So we want to get to know you, we want to know your story, we want to know about you and how we can help you succeed and meet all of your fitness goals.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, come on down to Scope 365 Fitness. You're located right here on Brim Hall. Tell us your other locations.
We have another location up in Tehachapi. And then our third location here in town is also located over on Chester and Columbus in the Food Mac Shopping Center.
Thank you so much, Craig. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Denise Gary Show. I hope I have and I do. Philip Haney, See Something, Say Something. I'm still reading through the book. It is a really fascinating read. Normally a book like this, I would just sit down and read it, except for the fact there's so many other projects, between the classes I'm teaching, etc. It's just hard to just sit down and read a book through. I'm hoping to finish it this week as I go through the week. See Something, Say Nothing. An important contribution to our war on Islamic terrorism and our counterterrorism measures. I think it's really an important contribution to the counterterrorism measures here in the United States. And, we're really impacted by groups and what they're doing in the Middle East, what they do to Israel, our most important strategic ally there, and of course how Americans, how very much we need our counterterrorism groups operating within our local sheriff's department. We've had Kern County Sheriff Donnie Youngblood here on the broadcast. Those of you that are listening to this show in other cities across America and up and down the state of California, your sheriff's department has counterterrorism people. I don't know how many. I believe last count I had, we had 3 counterterrorism officials working with our sheriff and your police department. And of course, there's the FBI. Anytime you see something or say something, you need to call that local number to your sheriff's department or PD department or the local FBI office. If you don't have a local FBI number, then call the number for Sacramento or call the number in Washington, D.C., but get the information reported. One thing I wanted to mention to you I thought was interesting is the president has issued, this was in May, I kept meaning to get to it, but it never seemed to fit right. At the end of May, there was a memorandum released by the president. This is called a presidential memoranda on national security and defense. It's up there available for anybody to review at whitehouse.org. The president is saying that that the authority that's vested in him by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, again, the president's responsibility is, of course, to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution. And one of the important elements within the Constitution, which was a document that set up and formed our government, is in Section 4, Article 4 of the Constitution, that talks about protecting you and I, protecting your family, protecting your friends from violence, both domestic and foreign. And regarding Israel and the Palestinians, these are Muslim Arabs that after 67 identified themselves as Palestinians because the Muslim Arabs, they lost that war. Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, they all attacked Israel in 1967. And Israel defended itself, and in defending itself miraculously, I mean miraculously, this little tiny country of 2.5 million people, of Jews, somehow managed. And, I was listening to a video last night in preparation for this broadcast, and there were like 5 miracles identified. Maybe we'll get to that later this week. 5 miracles identified that the Jewish people thought, this is incredible, that we have one of the largest armies in the Middle East, i.e. Egypt. Egypt has one of the largest armies in the Middle East, and they have very sophisticated air force. The Israeli Jews in 67, remember, their state had just been re-established in 48. They had these old French fighter aircraft, stuff that didn't compare to what the Egyptians had. And somehow they managed to wipe out the Egyptian Air Force. It's incredible what happened. But anyway, getting back to the president. And so the president has delegated our Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, to sanction the use of civilians as defenseless shields. So the Palestinians, what we found, remember last month I believe was the first part of May, the Muslim Arabs would put children in front of these areas where they were launching rockets into Israel. Okay, by the way, Mr. Producer, don't let me forget, there were rockets launched into Israel again over the weekend. I want to cover that. So if we run out of time in this break, remind me. Ladies and gentlemen, so remember, if you recall, I believe it was the first part of the first weekend of last month, over 700 rockets landed, in Israel, mostly in the southern part of the state of Israel. And so when the IDF, when they struck back, not at civilian targets, but they, with their very sophisticated weaponry, tried to literally hit only those areas that they knew were launching sites for those rockets from the Gaza Strip, which, by the way, Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, really funds the Palestinian Arabs there in the Gaza Strip. And whether it's Islamic Jihad or Hamas, the Islamic Resistance Movement, or the Al-Qaeda, various terrorist groups are just roaming around in the Gaza Strip. Ever since the Israelis unilaterally just gave it over to the Muslim Arabs. Big mistake on Israel's part. It's been nothing but trouble. But, you know, presidents, both, not this president, President Trump, but prior presidents, Republican and Democrats, always talked about land for peace, like, oh, that was going to bring peace to the Jewish people and to the Middle East, as if Israel just gives up more land. No, that's not the way it works, ladies and gentlemen. You give up more land and they just use it to launch rockets into Israel. Anyway, I've got to wrap up this segment. But what the Muslim Arabs did was they would put men, women, and children around these sites that they knew the IDF would be very careful just to strike terrorist targets. You know, these rocket launching areas, weapons depots, things of that nature. They never want to hurt a civilian. And so this is why the Muslim Arabs would put civilians around them, these sites. So the president, I wanted to say thank you to the president. I hope you'll call the president. Would you put up the president's telephone number? Well, I just have that number sitting in front of me, area code 202-456-1111. Area code 202-456-1111. Call the president. Say, thank you, Mr. President, for sanctioning the use of civilians as defenseless shields. So what this law does is it says to the State Department and other U.S. departments and agencies through this National Security Presidential Memorandum that, you know what, we're not going to tolerate the Palestinians or anybody using human shields, defenseless civilian people as human shields in order to, and why do the Muslim Arabs do it? I mean, they do it because they want to then show the whole world, oh, the Israelis, those terrible Israelis or Americans, you know, look, they killed these innocent civilians. That's why they do it. It's called propaganda. It's called propaganda for the purpose of generating support for the Palestinian illegitimate cause. These are Muslim Arabs that if they became a U.S. citizen, they would be under Israeli law. They'd have absolutely total freedom inside Israel. In fact, think about this, ladies and gentlemen, as I close out this segment. These Muslim Arabs could have total freedom away from these terrorist groups and operators. They could live in peace, but for the fact that they buy into this narrative in the Quran and in the Hadith, it says you got to kill for Allah. You've got to murder the infidels. There has to be jihad against these infidels, these non-Muslim believers. If it wasn't for that, we would have peace. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. We've got to pay the bills. We've got to take a commercial break. We'll be right back after this commercial.
I am a soldier and I'm marching on. I am a warrior and this is my song. My eyes are steeled and my gaze is long. I am a warrior and this is my song.
President Trump has correctly stated that economic security is national security. And in the Tehachapi Mountains of Kern County resides a United States defense contractor, Denice Products. Here is the Silicon Valley of the aerospace industry, right here in East Kern. Denice Products is a forward-leaning manufacturer and distributor of hardware sold to major defense and aerospace companies. We're talking about Boeing, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon General Electric, and on the list goes, as well as to every United States ally worldwide, including Israel, America's most important strategic ally in the Middle East. And for everything that flies, Denice Products is providing the parts. And with me today is the president of Denice Products, Scott Baker. Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
Scott, tell us why you believe this corner of Kern County is the hub of the aerospace industry.
Well, this portion of Southern California here out in the Antelope Valley, it contains, some of the most cutting edge technology going on in aviation today. We have some of the UCAS programs with unmanned technologies going on. We have Edwards Air Force Base out here who's doing continual testing in their area. We have the Naval Weapons Station up there at China Lake doing some fantastic cutting edge stuff, cruise missile technology, and those things are going on. We have Scale Composites locally doing a lot of composite technology, which is new. We have SpaceX, which is a private one putting a private entity putting things into space now. This area is the growth center for aviation's future, and this is the area I think that as a nation we need to be concentrating some of our effort and taking this technology. And as we all know, with the space program from Apollo years ago, out of these technologies, we the private sector are going to reap some of the benefits of that.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Baker, president of Anatase Products. Anatase Products, located in the beautiful mountains of Tehachapi, California, in eastern Kern County, is home to some of the most innovative and specialized technologies in the world, including those at the U.S. Naval Air Warfare Center, Weapons Division at China Lake, Edwards Air Force Base, as well as Stratolaunch, launching satellites capable of delivering multiple orbits in a single flight to space. And it is Anatase Products that has provided the manufactured devices, and the president, Scott Baker of Anatase Products, Marine Corps veteran, reactivated on 9/11 to monitor threats to the homeland, is carrying on a tradition of providing for the security of the United States by manufacturing every kind of fastener on anything that flies, as well as providing a full testing destructive laboratory. Contact Anatase Products, now in business for 30 years, at 661-822-6873, located at 1314 Goodrich Drive in Tehachapi, for your manufacturing and testing needs today. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are with Barb Reynolds Wallstrom today. She is the owner and operator of Tehachapi Court Services, serving the entire Kern County area. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you, Denise.
You've been at the top of your game in terms of legal matters for many, many years. And I want you to tell the audience today, what is the difference between a legal document assistant to pro per litigants as opposed to a paralegal? What's the difference?
A legal document assistant such as I has been involved with the legal work for many years, as a matter of fact, decades, and I feel quite competent and capable of helping people throughout Kern County for legal needs that they really need assistance with and can't afford an attorney.
Right.
So I'm here in Bakersfield 3 and 4 times a week. If people need me, they can call me. If they can't get to me, and why is that? Because people have to work during the day. The clients I serve are working people.
And you go to Shafter and Wasser, and you're there in Tehachapi.
I'll go there.
You're just everywhere.
I'm everywhere. And Denise, I'm not tied to a 9-to-5 environment.
Yeah.
I go where my clients need me at whatever hour. I love doing that, and they can call me. I will come to them. They can call me at whatever hour aside from 9 to 5 because people need answers and they need them quickly.
Barb Reynolds Wallstrom is so passionate about what she does. She loves it. She's been in the business for decades, and she's the gal you want to call. You help people handle their adoptions, right?
Adoptions,
and
bankruptcies, also divorces, unlawfully tainted, which are evictions, conservatorships, guardianships, living trusts. I pretty much run the gamut after 47 years.
So how do people reach you, Barb?
They can contact me at area code 661-805-3306.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to call Tehachapi Court Services today. Talk to Barb. She can be reached at 661-805-3306. It's there on the screen. Give her a call. She will work with you hand in glove.
Right.
Hand in glove.
I walk every step of the way with my clients.
Excellent. She'll work with you and get the job done. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Denise Gary Show. Okay, we've talked about the president's Middle East plan,
And I wanted to point out to you, as I mentioned, I believe one time last week, that in Bahrain, this president, the first president in American history and since the founding of Israel, in an effort to try to help bring peace between the Muslims and the Jews. And again, I have to say for the record that it's important that you understand there'd already be peace in the Middle East if the Muslims would just stop attacking Jewish people inside Israel. There would be peace, but there hasn't been, okay, because of the ideology, because of the racism inside that part of the world against Jews and Christians. So the Trump administration has announced plans to host this quote-unquote economic workshop. It's going to be in Bahrain in late June, and it's going to include finance ministers, international and regional business leaders. They're going to deal with issues like infrastructure, industry, investment, political and financial reform. So think about that, and think about how the leader of the Muslim Arab Palestinians, think about Fatah, the Revolutionary Council. They just sent a delegation last week to North Korea. Now, why would Mahmoud Abbas, the leaders of the Palestinians, send a small delegation to North Korea? Because according to Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian leadership rejects the president's quote-unquote deal of the century, that they are not going to in any way participate in the economic workshop. And of course, the North Korea leader is saying that he supports the Palestinian cause. I don't know why. There were already 4 Muslim Arab states created after World War I, including Jordan, Palestinian majority state. But just for the record, the president is working overtime as usual, and his team. And I say as usual because the president, I think, works nonstop. But they're working to try to create peace in the Middle East. And ladies and gentlemen, who is it but the Palestinian Muslim Arabs who would look forward to being rich like their Palestinian cousins living in Israel, rich like their Palestinian or Muslim Arab cousins throughout the Middle East, and countries like Bahrain, where the conference will be held, like Kuwait, like the United States, like Rashida Tlaib is making a pretty nice salary as a freshman member of Congress, and others. So I think it's interesting that, again, the Palestinians have an opportunity to grow and flourish in the Middle East, but they're resisting it. And we're going to have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and the leftists in the Democratic Party talk about the oppression of the Muslim Arabs, when all they have to do is use all that economic aid, the tons of aid that Israel sends into the Gaza Strip and provides the Muslim Arab Palestinians. All they have to do is embrace that each and every day, and they would have a prosperous economy, a developing infrastructure, and growing industry. Say a prayer. Say a prayer for the president as he's in England today, meeting with the leadership there on a state visit. Say a prayer for the Palestinian leadership and for all those in the Middle East, and particularly our most important strategic ally, Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Denise Gary Show. This is Denise signing off.
Thank you for listening to The Denise Gary Show. Intelligent Talk Media.